Hey Guardians, it's Todd the Gator here, and I just wanted to talk about something that has vastly improved since the Lightfall expansion was released. In the past, this aspect of the game felt clunky, and some Guardians just passed over this feature of the game. What am I talking about? It's build crafting. I know some of you are out there saying, Gator, this has always been a thing, man, and yes it has. But now, more than ever, build crafting is actually fun to do in the game. Instead of the slog of trying to figure out what worked with what, making builds in Destiny 2 is pretty cool now. There have been many improvements to how you make a build in Lightfall. When the first aspect and fragment system arrived with the new stasis subclass in the Beyond Light expansion, there were so many options and available combinations to make a build work. But I never used it. Why? The system seemed overly complicated, and once you added the weapon and armor mod system, which, by the way, back then, you had to slowly acquire these mods in Ingram drops or buying them from 801, I just decided to stick with my trusty Void Warlock subclass that I've always used in Destiny 1. For the stat nerds among us, it was a stat building game, and they created some crazy good builds. But to this little pleb that just wanted the looties and the shooties, I was good with the basic setup and never thought I really needed these little enhancements. Now I can hear you out there saying, Gator, I'll just click and copy the dim link that most content creators post in their descriptions of their build videos. And yes, I've done that as well. But if you don't know why these combinations are used, in my opinion, it begins to take the fun out of the game. Here are some of the improvements that Bungie has made and why you should jump in now and start making your own builds. First, Bungie has given us a huge quality of life improvement and has now made it possible for any of your seasonal artifact mods you've selected to be automatically applied when the situation calls for them. You can only pick 12 at the time of this video, but Bungie is making changes to that as well in the next season. Second, if you are a Crucible player, helmet targeting mods can step up your 1v1 gunfights to the next level. In the past, you would have to choose the gun type with different slot requirements and hope you had enough armor slots to use it, especially on the fly. 5 slots for a sniper targeting mod, really? But now, just pick the weapon element and done. It's a fixed amount of slots and takes the guesswork out of swapping out weapons, like I said, on the fly. The third improvement are the armor mods themselves. Remember when you had 3 different kinds of mod families like Charged with Light, where you picked up the orbs? Well of Light, elemental wells would drop matching the element of your gun or subclass. And finally Warmind cells, which were red glowing orbs that would fall from enemies, and you could do various things with them, but you had to use a certain Warmind based weapon from that era. Now it's just about orbs of power. Everything in the mod game is tied to just picking up that little orb of power. So it eliminates the confusion of having the wrong mods equipped, especially in PvP, where the Well and Warmind Cell mods were disabled. A couple other improvements that Bungie's made here. Gone are the elemental armor types and the elemental mods that went with them. Also, the aspect and fragment system is now the system for all of the subclasses. So no more predetermined skill trees, just choose your super, find the aspect that works for you, and the fragments fully explain what benefit you're going to receive from using them. And there are no wrong ones to use. Whatever you value the most in game is what you should choose. There is still the synergy as well, but you don't get punished for it. The reason I made this video is because, like many parts of this expansive game, you don't really know what you're missing until you try it. And once I actually tried to make builds on my own, I didn't realize how creative I could become, and also tailor my builds to fully benefit my playstyle. This was also a topic of discussion on our podcast, Guardian Downcast, and inspired me as well to help other Guardians out there who maybe were too intimidated or just didn't want to put in the time to learn. Shooties and looties, right? I see you. Now, normally I don't create build videos, as there's plenty of other content creators out there that do a wonderful job of it. But I want to just walk you through one of my builds and the thought process behind it and show you how incredibly easy it is to put one together. Here, I'm going to give you a sample build that I use on the regular in PvP. Keep in mind that what I use may not work for your playstyle, but this might be a good place to start. So I'm going to use a kinetic rapid fire pulse rifle, the Peace of Mind, which I've crafted with enhanced elemental capacitor. In other words, my Void subclass adds a ton of stability to my weapon, which in turn reduces the flinch I take while using that weapon. My energy weapon is the Cloud Strike exotic sniper rifle, which I initially hated this one, but as I've used it more and more, I'm getting more accurate. Hey, and who can resist those double kills, right, from that extra explosion? You can use any heavy you like, but I like using the rocket launchers. I'm using the Iron Banner Roar of the Bear with Impulse Amplifier and Incandescent. It just has a very high blast radius, so it has a better chance of getting those kills, especially when people are going for control points. First off, let me preface this by saying that if you want to maximize your gains in PvP, I strongly suggest masterworking your armor, as it'll give you 10 available slots to apply mods, and you get a +2 to all of your traits, in other words, mobility, resilience, intellect, discipline, strength, recovery, you know what I mean. Okay, so now that I have my weapon selected, I begin from the top down, starting with my helmet armor. In PvP, targeting mods are the king when dueling those 1v1s. So I use a kinetic targeting mod, which is 3 armor slots for my pulse rifle, an arc targeting mod for my sniper rifle, which is also 3 slots. That leaves me with 4 slots left to apply a resilience mod that adds +10 to my overall resilience. With me so far? Alright. Next are my gauntlets. I start off by applying a kinetic loader, which requires 3 armor slots and allows my pulse rifle to reload faster, as it will be my main weapon in use. Next is an arc dexterity mod, increases my handling of my sniper rifle and my stow speeds and costs 3 slots. I also add a momentum transfer mod in which causing damage, not a kill, with a grenade reduces my charged melee cooldown. Then finally I add a minor resilience mod that costs 2 slots and adds +5 to my overall resilience. You may be asking yourself, why is he adding only a minor resilience mod here? Isn't the most resilience in the game the best? Well, in this game, Bungie rounds down to the nearest 0 value when adding Guardian traits. So because I only needed 5 more resilience to get to the next close to 0 value, in other words 83 or tier 8, adding a full 10 would not get me any additional benefit. In other words, it would be 88, which if you're rounding down, still equals tier 8 or 80. Got that? Awesome. Okay, going to my chest armor, I have decided to add unflinching kinetic aim, which further adds to my flinch resistance. It costs 3 slots. If you remember, my pulse rifle has stability already added to it. This even adds more. Unflinching arc aim, another 3 slots for my sniper rifle to do the same thing. That leaves me with a resilience mod for +10 to resilience. Remember now, I'm at an even number, so anything I add +10 goes an entire tier ahead. Moving to my leg armor, I add mods that give me benefits when I pick up an Orb of Power. So Innervation, which costs 1 slot to reduce grenade cooldown, Absolution, 3 slots that reduced all ability cooldowns when picking up an orb, and finally, another Innervation mod. You'll find that some mods will stack and provide greater benefits when using more than one, but keep in mind that there is a reduced benefit at some point. Resilience mod to add another +10, 1 more full tier of resilience to my overall character. But lastly, we have our class armor, which is for Warlocks, Bonds, in which I've added general cooldown reduction mods that do not require picking up an Orb of Power, like Bomber, general grenade cooldown reduction, Distribution, all abilities reduce cooldown when using the class ability, which is my Rift, near enemies, and Outreach, which reduces powered melee cooldowns whenever I use my class ability, in other words Rift, anywhere in the map. And that's it. It sounds complicated, but once you dive in, it's very intuitive. If you look at my overall character, I have a total of 71 mobility, tier 7. I know I don't need it, but I like the faster strafe speed for those gun battles. 83 resilience, tier 8, which is pretty strong. 54 recovery, how fast my shields return to full after I'm taking damage. Weight Gator, why not add more recovery as it will reduce your Rift cooldown as a Warlock, right? Well, this is where playstyle again comes into play, no pun intended, and why you can create your own builds according to your own playstyle. I'm a cover shooter, which means I would rather have more strafing ability to make my enemies miss when in 1v1s, and I'll just duck back into cover and just wait for my shields to return. Cover is the ultimate armor, in my opinion. 49 discipline, remember, still tier 4, which is low, but I have grenade cooldown mods to compensate for that. 80 intellect, which is tier 8, reducing my cooldowns of my super abilities. And finally, 33 strength, tier 3. But again, I know it's low, but I have some mods to help offset this low recharge rate of my powered melee abilities. If you look at my subclass, I'm using healing rifts to offset my low recovery, and axiom bolts to seek out enemies from behind cover. I use the Vortex Nova Bomb, which shuts down every super, I think, in the game, and using the aspects Feed the Void, which heals me upon getting kills while having it, and Chaos Accelerant, which allows me to overcharge grenades for more damage, and also creates an additional seeker on my axiom bolt grenade. Also makes my Vortex super larger in size, and also increases the duration of the lasting effects after throwing it. As far as fragments, I'm using Echo of Vigilance, which gives me an overshield upon killing an enemy when my shields are depleted. Man, this has saved my life several times when additional guardians are coming by to shoot at you when you kill one of their teammates. But there is a cost. I lose -10 recovery, but the trade-off to me is well worth it, especially in my 1v1s. Echo of Dilation, which gives me +10 mobility and +10 intellect, which is the equivalent of using 2 more armor mods that do this, but for free. With the added benefit of allowing me to, when crouched, have enhanced radar to see those flankers trying to get me, and also I can sneak faster, which is also great for getting to a sightline faster without being detected. Finally, I use the Echo of Remnants, which gives me additional active duration, so in other words, my Seeking Axiom Bolt seeks further and longer, which is great for flushing out enemies behind cover. Do you see how synergistic all of this is? I didn't copy this from another content creator, I just experimented over time, and this is what has worked for me. This is the great thing about build crafting your armor and weapons. You have all the control, and more importantly, all of the creativity. So do me a favor, if you just do one thing from this video, take 15 minutes when logging into Destiny 2, and open up your character screen and just look over the myriad of armor mods available to you, and just plug one in. If you don't plug one in, you won't get any benefit. Try it out, or even look at your subclass and read over what the aspects and fragments do for you. What's cool is that there's actually no wrong answer or build. It's what you decide to do with it. And once you make that build that's perfect for you, the game will never be the same again. Now, if you would like to know more about crafting a weapon, choose the video to the left here, or if you're trying to maximize your XP gains, trying to close out that season, then click the video to the right. As always, hey, thanks for watching, and later, Guardian.